Hi, welcome to the Business Swings podcast. I'm Christina Petrakis.
My name is Nick Richards. I'm 56. My business is Enrich Consultants Limited. I've founded businesses and grown them. I've bought businesses. I've been the company director for the best part of 30 years.
Do you think that experience is key on setting up a business?
I think if you're setting up the business for the first time, you're not going to have the experience of setting up a business. But the important thing is to get the right advice. And in my view, one of the biggest problems with small business is that there isn't enough accessible, affordable business advice available to startups and small entrepreneurial businesses. To me, this is a great shame that so many people set up businesses but don't really think about the long term and how it's going to grow and how they're going to structure it. And they end up paying the price.
What savings do people normally miss out on, and what things do business owners oversee?
A lot of people, when they go into business, they go into business because they have a particular talent or a good idea or passion for something. And usually, because they're very enthusiastic and passionate, the business grows very quickly. But then, of course, they soon realize that they're actually not a hairdresser or a designer anymore. They're running a business. And they get to a point where they're so busy just trying to swim upstream and keep the day-to-day activities at bay, they miss a lot of opportunities, either in terms of sales and growth or in terms of reducing costs.
What would you say is overall the most common mistake business owners make?
Planning. I guess it comes down to a lack of planning. I mean, that involves a lot of mistakes that subsequently are made because of a lack of planning. Prevention is so much better than a cure, and you can avoid making a lot of mistakes by just thinking through how your business is going to go, how much money you need to take to cover your costs, what your margin's going to be. And most people, when they start a business, they just don't think that through. And if they do try to think it through, they're not realistic.
What other preventions are there for people starting their own business?
Well, I don't think there are any obstacles to starting a business. I think anybody can go out and start a business, and you don't necessarily need a lot of cash. Obviously, it depends on the type of business you're starting. If you're going to buy a hotel or a factory, then you obviously need a lot of access to a lot of cash. But a lot of small businesses can be started on very little capital. If somebody wants to raise cash to start a business, there are ways of doing it, but in order to do it, you have to put that business plan together. The reality is most businesses, when they go to the bank to borrow money, they don't bring with them a compelling argument as to why the bank should risk the bank's money in their business. Because if business idea is good enough and sound enough and the figures add up and they're realistic, why wouldn't the bank lend the money? Why wouldn't an investor put money in?
And in terms of if you had to start again, would you do anything differently?
I started with a do-it-yourself website that cost me about £60, which was a load of rubbish. I then had to pay somebody to do me a proper website, and probably realizing that networking was the best way of finding clients. That took me a little while to actually realize that a lot of the other things I was doing, like mail shots and what have you, weren't really as effective as just going out there and shaking hands with lots of people and trying to use other people's contacts. And also do some reciprocal things. I work with firms of accountants and I get them clients and they look out for clients for me. So,
what most surprised you?
What surprised me most is how difficult it is to actually make money, to make a profit, and how much easier it is to financially to work for somebody else. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go back to working for somebody else. But it is very difficult, and I think most people, when they start a business, think it's going to be a lot easier than it is.